Hello and welcome to this ACCA podcast. If you're just starting out, your accountancy journey can feel daunting, but it doesn't have to be. At ACCA, we're all about making accountancy accessible and opening doors to a career path that has no limits. Now, back in April 2015, ACCA launched an online course program named ACCA-X with a mission to transform the way you learn the foundations of accountancy. And fast forward 10 years, and the program is still going strong with over 250,000 learners that are enrolled across 7 courses. Now, my name is Isabel. I'm a community manager for ACCA-X, and I'm joined today by my fellow ACCA-X team members to discuss what it is we love about the courses. And along the way, we're going to share some reasons why you might just benefit from enrolling yourself. So welcome, Gillian and Kritika. Nice to have you here with me today.
Hey, lovely to be here.
So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves in just a second, but first let me expand a little bit on my role and what it is I do with ACCA-X. So as I said, I'm a community manager, and this involves supporting our global community of learners, whether it's answering questions on forums, signposting useful resources, or providing tips on how to get the most out of the courses. So that's me. Kritika, I'll come to you first. Can you give us a little bit of information about your role and how long you've been working on ACCA-X?
Thanks, Isabel. My name's Kritika, as you've introduced, and I am a digital education delivery lead, which sounds like quite the mouthful, but essentially it means I get involved in the design and the delivery of various different student resources and initiatives. So you might hear my voice or have seen me in webinars and podcasts like On Your Marks, just to name a few. But specifically for ACCA-X, I'm the product lead, which means I get involved in everything from content creation, the enhancements, marketing, right through to the data as well. And I joined the wonderful ACCA-X team in 2020.
Brilliant. And over to you, Gillian.
So I've actually been with ACCA for over 15 years, and my job title is delivery analyst. So I work with a global team who oversee student, member, tutor resources, and some that if you're an ACCA student, you might already have heard of. So things like the Study Hub, ACCA Learning, and the Practice Platform. But with ACCA-X specifically, I look after the logistics of ensuring everyone can enrol each year to the new content, and I also oversee the kind of B2B side of things with employers, and I support Kritika and Isabel in just about every aspect of the ACCA-X course life cycle.
Great. So introductions done. So before we go any further, I think we should introduce ACCA-X itself. So let's cover the basics. I've already mentioned it's an online course program, but Kritika, perhaps you could expand on this and let us know what ACCA-X is.
Absolutely. So ACCA-X is the name that we've given to a suite of 7 online on-demand courses, and they're all geared towards the foundational level of accountancy. Now, the courses are managed and created by ACCA, as Isabel alluded to in the introduction, and you can think of these courses as essentially providing you with the tuition content that you need to learn the foundational aspects of accounting. Now, all our courses are syllabus relevant, and essentially what that means is if you have intentions to sit the respective ACCA exams, whether it's the Foundations in Accountancy or Applied Knowledge exams, if you're pursuing the full ACCA qualification, you can rest assured knowing that all syllabus learning outcomes are being covered by our courses. And I think you mentioned this earlier in your introduction as well, Isabel, that at ACCA, we really do pride ourselves in making accountancy accessible to everyone. So actually 4 out of the 7 courses that we offer are completely free and open access, allowing you to dip your toes into the world of accountancy without making any significant financial commitment.
Brilliant. I mean, that's just the first major benefit up top there. Right, let's get stuck in. I have the first question to put to you two. Kritika and Gillian, what one word would you use to describe ACCA-X? And Gillian, I'll come to you first.
This one's an easy one for me because it's quality. So we see a much higher than average global pass rate in our exams, and also one of the most common pieces of feedback, and we do receive a lot of feedback from our learners on our courses. One of the most common pieces of feedback is how much our learners enjoy the simplicity of our courses and how the language is just really clear, easy to understand, and nothing within the course is overcomplicated.
Perfect. And Kritika?
I think that's a really good word, Gillian, actually. And so just to kind of add to something I mentioned earlier when I was introducing X, I said it's online and on demand. So for me, the word that springs to mind is flexible. If I had to describe it, it's flexible, because the on-demand nature of the courses essentially means that you can study at a time and a place that suits you. So if you are a working mum, or you're a working dad, or maybe you're not a working mum or dad, but you are just employed and you have other commitments, you're not restricted to, actually study at a specific time. You can choose a study schedule that suits you. So for me, that is a really good way to describe our courses. And you get access to the courses for 12 months after enrolling as well. I mean, Isabel, you work quite closely with these courses as well. What do you think is the word that describes ACCA-X?
I'm going to build on what you've both already said, because for me, the word is accessible. And I think we're kind of all trying to get across the accessibility of ACCA-X, and it has opened doors to learners across the world, and everyone has a different story and their own personal reasons for enrolling onto the courses, but they share that same desire to develop core finance skills. And I love the fact that ACCA-X allows them to do that wherever they are and no matter what experience or skills they already have. So yeah, I think we've got quality, flexible and accessible. I think that's a great range of words to describe it.
Absolutely, some really good words there. And what I want to ask you guys is, what is your favorite feature or thing about ACCA-X? And Gillian, I want to come to you first. What would you say your favorite feature or thing is?
I just really love the fact that our courses are cost effective, especially in these current times. So 4 out of 7 courses are completely free of charge, and the BT, MA and FA courses are $119. And you've already touched on it, Kritika, but for the listeners, just bear in mind that the content in our courses will fully prepare you to take the corresponding exam. There's no other resource or learning tool needed to prepare for our exams. So $119 for the full package, and then you can go on to sit your exam.
Isabel, what would you say?
Well, I think the fact that I'm a community manager kind of gives it away, but I think it's the global community for me. Our learners are spread across the world, and I think in fact we've got learners from over, I think it's 240 countries, and it's a really active community too. ACCA-X learners are really good at asking and answering questions on the forums. I get to see them connect and support each other along the way, and we know that obviously that online study can be quite challenging, so having access to that online community of learners who are going through the same process, digesting the same content, trying to get the tricky topics in their heads at the same time as you, being able to connect with them is obviously a huge benefit. So we often talk actually about how global the ACCA qualification is, and I think you can see that reflected in the ACCA-X community at that early stage of study. So yeah, the global community is definitely my favourite feature of ACCA-X. So I actually just touched upon the fact that there is a bit of a challenging aspect sometimes to online studying, and so I wondered if we should discuss a little bit about some of the challenges that an ACCA-X learner might face when they're on our courses. They're self-paced, they're on demand. How do you think the courses and how they're set up help manage those? So Kritika, maybe you could let us know first what you think is the main challenge of online self-paced study.
Yeah, and I think you touched on this in the way that you described how the global community within ACCA-X helps, because I think one of the challenges with sort of online courses tends to be that feeling of isolation. There's a real perception that when we self-study or we're doing a course online, that it might feel like a lonely experience, especially if you're used to face-to-face tuition or classroom studies. You know, it can take a little bit of getting used to when you kind of pivot or start doing your first online course. But actually, as well as you've pointed out, we do have an active community that's there to help you. You can bounce ideas and questions off your peers that are also studying at the same time. But something else that's also really useful, and actually I think of this as one of my favorite features of the ACCA-X courses, is the recent addition of the expert tool, the expert learning assistant tool. You know, if you've used tools like, let's say, ChatGPT or Google's Gemini or Claude, for example, it's very similar to that. It's essentially a digital tutor that's available to you at the click of a button, and you can ask it technical questions and it will respond, you know, within seconds to whatever technical query that you might have. And actually, we also have a virtual notice board that, Isabel, I know you update quite regularly with resources and upcoming events or new items that ACCA is making available to students studying at that level. So you'll always feel guided and it won't feel so isolating.
I know you love an AI tool, Kritika, so I'm glad you got the digital assistant in there. So isolation might be a challenge. Gillian, what do you think?
Really similar, to be honest. I really kind of mirror what Kritika said. For me, it's lack of motivation, and as Kritika did mention, working and studying alone can feel completely isolating. And when there's no one there to keep you on track or to motivate you, your studies really could potentially suffer. So I think you need to stay accountable by creating a study schedule, possibly, if that works for you, and try to include study hours during the working week. I think it's important to take time away from work and studies at the weekend. So if you can slot that time in during the working week, even better. Just set yourself goals, engage in the discussion forums, speak to your friends and family as well about how you're getting on with your courses, and they'll keep you accountable when they check in and ask you how your studies are going. So lack of motivation for me, I think, is probably one of the kind of key points there. But what are you thinking, Isabel?
Yeah, I think you've both touched on some good points there. I was thinking about the learning style, finding your own learning style and what works for you, because obviously we all learn in completely different ways, and it's really important to test out the different techniques that help you get the most out of your studies. And what's good about ACCA-X is that it's got loads of very different kinds of content, and you've already, both of you, touched upon loads of different aspects of the courses. But you know, got interactive activities, summary notes, videos, opportunities to test your understanding of topics with questions and knowledge checks, and also the ACCA study resources relevant for that level. They're also integrated into the learning experience. So basically, you're building this strong foundational knowledge and using the resources to process the content in a way that best suits your learning style. So yeah, I think just thinking about what works for you and how you're going to tackle the digesting that content, I think, is really important. And hopefully we've provided enough resources for learners to be able to do that successfully.
Yeah. And Isabel, we'll come back to you. You obviously work really closely with the global community of learners. So do you have any standout success stories from students that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'm so lucky that I get to chat with them all the time in the courses. I'm on the forums, and like I said earlier, I love hearing their reasons for taking ACCA-X courses. Lots of them come back and tell us how they got on with their exams, which is always great. I've had the pleasure as well of talking to students on other podcast episodes, including someone who started his journey with ACCA-X and is now a fully qualified ACCA member. Actually, most recently, we as a team heard from a learner who is just 16 years old, and she's enrolled onto ACCA-X, then went on to pass her applied knowledge exams while she's still in high school, which is amazing. And also on the other end of the age spectrum, I think I've told you before and I love it. I'll never forget reading the forum post from a grandma who was in her 80s and was learning bookkeeping skills so she could support her grandsons with their new pizza restaurant. So that's proof that learning never stops and it's never too late to get involved and learn these skills. So yeah, I'm very lucky. I get to chat and learn more from the learners all the time. So
I love
great.
that story too.
I know. I'll always
Absolutely. And it's so great that we get such a broad spectrum of learners, isn't it? Right through from the school leavers or those that are still in high school, like you've alluded to, and, you know, the grandma that was studying just because she wanted to pick up extra knowledge. So some great success stories there, Isabel. And actually sticking with the theme of success, what advice would you give to students to ensure that they make the most out of ACCA-X? So I guess, Gillian, I'll come to you first with that one.
Well, you both know as much as I do, and it's the message that our team sends out to all of ACCA students, learners in our courses, but practice is probably one of the most important aspects of your study plan. You have to integrate practice and practice tests. So if you're on the paid ACCA-X courses, use the free of charge practice tests that we make available to you. All students can test their knowledge on the free specimens on the website too, so that's something to utilise. And make sure that you're enrolling at the right time. Our courses are on demand, so the flexibility is there, but I would say make sure you have the time to dedicate hours to your study to ensure you really stay on track. Particularly if the finance sector is new to you, it's harder to revisit a course and remember what you've learned, and you have to take breaks in your studies. But with that said, we have summary sections at the end, which you can revisit on our courses, and you have access to the courses and the content for 12 months.
That's some really great advice, Gillian. And I particularly love that you've spotlighted the practice, because we keep hammering home that message about practice makes perfect. And you don't need a perfect score in the exam, but it's going to help you at least attain that passing mark that you need if you keep practicing. So actually, I'll come to you, Isabel, with the same question. What would your advice be for students?
I think it's really important to set yourself learning goals and keep track of your progress. And I think this is key when you're on a self-paced on-demand exam and not exam course. You're personally accountable for your own progress, and it kind of ties into what Gillian was saying earlier about the lack of motivation. It's really hard sometimes to get yourself going if you don't have, say, a tutor tracking your development and keeping you going. So I think that's why a study plan is really important. And there are tools on the course that allow you to set deadlines and help you keep on track. So yeah, I think overall it'll just really help you to stay focused, positive, keep track of the progress, and that just gives you a really good motivational boost, because like nothing feels better than ticking things off a to-do list. I think we can all agree. And I think just having those learning goals in place is really useful, because you need to keep in focus the reasons why you're studying in the first place. That's going to keep you going back, going through the content. And if you plan to sit the relevant ACCA exam as well, get that booked in, because that will absolutely keep you accountable and will help you keep track of your progress as you go towards your exam date. What about you, Kritika?
Do you know what? I feel like you ladies have done a good job spotlighting a lot of really good advice. So I guess for me, what I would, and I'm probably biased, I think our ACCA-X courses are really high quality. I think quality might have been the word that Gillian, you picked, was it, for the way to describe our courses? And I'm going to echo that. We have designed our courses so that we are offering you the best possible learning experience. So my advice is simple. Use the tools and the resources that are available to you in the courses, whether that's the summary notes that have been referenced, the forums, Isabel, that you've called out, the expert AI tool, which I absolutely love and we've mentioned as well. I would just strongly encourage you to explore all the resources available to you to make sure you get the most out of the learning experience.
Right, brilliant. So we talked about what ACCA-X is and the benefits. Gillian, maybe before we start to wrap up the conversation, we should talk about how you actually find further information and enroll on the courses. So where can students go for that information on ACCA-X?
Yep, a couple of places. So obviously the ACCA global website, if you type in ACCA-X into the search bar, you'll see our ACCA-X pages on there. You can search for ACCA on the edX website. That's who hosts our courses. And you can find out more about what the courses entail and how to enrol on the edX website as well. And we'll include the links in the audio description section of the podcast. So now you know where to find more information about our courses, our ACCA-X courses. I want to ask you, and it's been 10 years, which is utterly amazing, and we've been there for almost half of them. Where do you hope to see ACCA-X in the next 10 years? Isabel, I'll start with you.
I think I'm going to tie this neatly back to one of my first answers earlier in the episode. I'm so proud to work on a course program that has accessibility at its core. And hopefully over the next 10 years, ACCA-X continues to provide affordable, flexible learning that allows everyone, no matter where they are in the world, to get that foundational knowledge and dip their toes in and decide whether or not, you know, a career in accountancy is for them. I just love the fact that students can learn whenever they want, wherever they want, and I hope that continues.
Kritika?
Do you know, Gillian, that's a really good question that you've asked, you know, projecting into the next 10 years and the vision that we might like for ACCA-X. And, you know, we said in the introduction that over the last 10 years, over 250,000 enrollers have come onto our courses, which is a fantastic achievement. I would love for that engagement to really continue, maybe even double if possible, over the next 10 years. And if I was to put out a really bold vision for the ACCA-X courses, I would say that I would want ACCA-X to be the go-to resource for anyone that's starting out their journey in accountancy. But also it should be the resource that people can turn to even if they want to upskill in finance, because actually financial literacy is such an important skill. And no matter what role or career you're thinking of pursuing, it would be great if ACCA-X courses were, you know, the place that people go to for that. And I think we are really well positioned to be that product. Now, if I could give what I've just said a bit of an analogy, I would say I would want ACCA-X to be the iPhone in the realm of the accountancy space. And the reason I'm referencing an iPhone is because in my mind, everyone should have an iPhone. And that is because I am an Apple fangirl. Hashtag this is not an ad. So that would be my vision for ACCA-X. What would you say, Gillian?
Again, we're all on the same page, aren't we? I would like to see ACCA-X really established as a starting point for learners who are new to finance and the accountancy world. And we've said it a few times now, but our learners achieve a higher average global pass rate. And I would just really like to see that continue, and I'd like to see that pass rate increase. And what we have to do, I suppose, Isabel and Kritika as a team, is really just continue to, and we do this, I mean, this is at the kind of forefront of everything we do. We really pay attention to learner feedback, and we really look closely at our content and the design of our courses. And we've always got that kind of learner journey and experience at the forefront of our minds.
So we love a realistic and achievable goal. We've got double our enrollment numbers, keep on passing exams, and become the new iPhone of accountancy. I think those are good goals for the future. Now, I think, unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. So I am going to wrap up the conversation. Thank you so much, Gillian and Kritika, for joining me today. And it's always a pleasure to chat to you both. And I think we did very well at keeping this to time, as I know that we love to talk about ACCA-X, and we could have gone on for a lot longer. So thank you to everyone watching. For useful links and information on how to start your accountancy journey with ACCA-X, check out the episode description. As Gillian said, we'll put all the relevant links there. Thank you so much for watching or tuning in. Take care and goodbye from all of us.